Digital asset news, where we take the top stories in crypto, bring it out of bite-sized pieces. But today, a little bit different. We've got friends of the show, George from Cryptos Are Us, and James from Invest Answers, as we do the DCA show. Gentlemen, welcome. Hey, a little bit different.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Show, gentlemen, welcome. Not too bad. Okay. So let me make sure I got my echoes out. That's my fault. All right. So what a day, huh? So far, so good. Looks like we're in like a little descending channel. Looks like Bitcoin's taking a little bit of a beating, and then so on and so forth. So today we're gonna go over a lot of different things, and I think it should help, especially the people out there that even if you've been in for a while or you haven't been in for that long. I think some of the things we're going to talk about today is going to help you see, hopefully, the bigger picture about what exactly is going on. So the first thing let's talk about, and then what I want to do is instead of just asking the question, I'm going to direct it to a person, have them answer, and then we'll have the person rebut and then go from there. So the first thing is 2 more Bitcoin ETFs. And this looks like it's from Valkyrie and Van Eck. So now we've got ProShares, Valkyrie, and which already came live on Friday, which I didn't even realize until I was doing some research. And then ProShare, or then we've got Van Eck coming up next week. So the question I have for everybody is first of all, is this good for the market to have 3 futures ETF, or is it just noise? And what do you think is going to happen in the long run with these futures ETFs?
Well, I think it's a good thing. You know, it brings a lot of institutions to the market. It also covered yesterday. Financial advisors are now selling it because people need a way to get in. The key thing for me, actually, I threw some money at some of the ProShares call options on Friday when Bitcoin was about 60,600, I think. So. And I've been tracking it all week, watching exactly how closely it does track to the Bitcoin price, and it's really close. There's a couple of things that I am trying to get a handle on is, 1, the true correlation, 2, tax implications, 3, how strong the contango effect will be, and if we do get to a situation where there's potential backwardation, what that will look like and how I can use that to hedge. But I did throw some money at it, and by my calculations, based on the call option I bought, I need Bitcoin to be at 65K on or before March 2022 to make money. So I'm pretty confident I'll make money on this call option. But I just want to get a feel for exactly how it operates, what the pricing is, how much margin is in there. And I think the more the better. The second one did fizzle out on Friday, and there'll be more to come. But it's just, people have to digest this stuff. And I just hope that they bring a spot ETF sooner than later. And I think this is setting the groundwork for that.
Gotcha. George, what do you think? Good for the market? Doesn't really matter, or it's a push at least in the right direction?
I would argue it's good. Obviously, when ProShares debuted, Bitcoin had a good rally. In terms of some of the statistics, I've read that ProShares ETF hit $1 billion under management faster than any other ETF that has ever come to be. So that shows you the appetite for Bitcoin and interest in Bitcoin. So that's very good. I heard on, I think yesterday, Valkyrie said that the interest in their Bitcoin futures ETF is so much that they could come out with 2 additional products right away. So, I mean, so far, so good. Van Eyck's on Monday, and there could be a lot more. But I think ultimately, yeah, like James said, we're all waiting for a true Bitcoin spot ETF, and this needs to happen first. Without it, Gary is not going to allow it. So this is here. It's bringing a lot more attention and money into the space, and I think that's overall a good thing.
Yeah, I agree somewhat with both of you, but as far as like these ETFs coming by, like Van Eck is supposed to launch next week. Looks like Monday, October 25th, it gets funded yesterday, and then off it goes. But yeah, that price for these ETFs, I mean, we started off strong, right? Looks pretty good. And we were at 40, and then it just went down sideways and then down again. That was for the BITO. The Valkyrie, which I think has a pretty good mnemonic or ticker for it, which is BTFD. I think we all know what that means. And if we take a look at it, I mean, it started off strong and then we're just kind of going sideways action. So we'll see how it goes. I will tell you this though. First one gets all the rewards, and the second one and third ones I think are kind of picking up the scraps. I know that the CEO, I forgot her name, for Valkyrie, she talked about it. She goes, yeah, there's a lot of demand, but I wonder how much of that is posturing. Like, yeah, there definitey is, and we can get it. Or if it's just like, I kind of got to say that because here I am for the second one. I guess the big thing will come down to what happens with VanEck. I'm not sure, but that's what we got for that one. So next part here, the Bitcoin pullback. So the Bitcoin pullback, it looks like, and let me just share this with you. This is from me and James's little session that we did for TA. And it looks like over the last 24, 48 hours, we've had quite the descent going forward. But I can just see, like, if we're taking a look at the 4 hour, like how we're going down. It looks like these huge candles just going down. The RSI is definitely not overbought as far as here, and now it's oversold. And we're coming down at this point, but do you think that we could break through? We've already broken through the 60K down a little bit, but do you think on Monday we could reach lower than that? Or do you think we're going to trade in this sideways action for a bit? George, I'll ask you first. What do you think?
I would defer to James first because, like you said, you guys just got done with the TA session. I like to hear that first.
Well, that was a while back. So I think what I see happening here is the usual stuff. There's just so much demand right now. There's a little bit of dumping, a little bit of manipulation. You can see the way these downwicks happen. When they breach the 60K, it goes down to, what is the exact number that it hit 3 times, 59.6. Mm-hmm. So what I've been telling people, any dip under 60K, snipe it, grab some. If you don't have any Bitcoin, grab it. You're not going to get the crazy gains you got a year ago, but still, this thing is going to 100K. And you can just see, again, as usual, the buyers come in every time it wicks below that level. So from my perspective, it's crazy manipulation. I mean, we could go to 65K tonight when we're sleeping. And that's just the way this thing goes. But we see an extremely strong support level at that 59.6, 60K. So if anybody's looking to add a few sats and is happy with 80% gains, within 3 months, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, and I can definitely see it. I mean, we just see it cross over the MACD, comes over this way. We could have made a pretty good profit again over here, and then right around here, like we just see how it just kind of crosses over, and then you could have sniped it, like you said, at 59, jumped up to, what are we at, 61 or so, and then just play that channel. But I'm not a big trader. I'm just trying to learn from traders. George, what do you think? And then the next question I'll ask, and I'll ask this for George to expand on it, is the Bitcoin dominance. Right now, I think we're only like at 43, 44% or something like that. Mm-hmm. Will we continue with this? Will it go up? Or do you think because of the money will just flow into alts and we'll go down below 40?
Yeah, I mean, a couple things. That 59.6 is an important, that was an important resistance that turned support. And I think James is correct. If you chart it out, you'll see that Bitcoin, every time it touches that point, it bounces back, just like a few moments ago too. But can we fall further? Sure, right? That's just the way things are with Bitcoin and crypto sometimes. But when in doubt, zoom out and you'll realize that our fall is not even, viewable when you go out over the last, year or so. So it does not mean even if we fall down that the bull run is over. It'll continue back up. But with that said, Bitcoin dominance, I think that's something that a lot of people forgot about. For those of us that's been in this space for a while, we know that when Bitcoin runs, dominance always runs up. Now this year, it did run up, but not as much as before because altcoins are obviously they're more mature now. They're bigger. The dollar amounts into them are bigger, so that if Bitcoin goes up, the dominance does not go up as significantly as it did before. But that's still something to watch. We definitely saw it for about 2 weeks, and then the last few days, dominance came down a little bit because the altcoins started finally come up a little bit. right? And someone like Solana just formed a new high out of the blue, and then it came down a little bit. And of course, we have fan favorite sheep that continues to go up. But when you look at it, Bitcoin, if it continues up, and I think a lot of us anticipate it's going to go up to 100, 150, 200, 250. On its way up, it's the dominance will go up.Maybe not as significant as before, but I think it will.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, if we just look at, I mean, just the historical parts here, this is why I brought this together, which was, I mean, with the dominance itself, I mean, back in, I mean, everything from 2013 to all the way until that last bull run in 2017, it was pretty high up there, 80s, sometimes even the 90s and so. But then once everything started to go to alts because there was a lot of money to be made, then we saw the dominance drop. We see it again. People like, as soon as it dropped here, they're like, whoops, maybe I should have listened to all the Bitcoin maxis and just put everything into Bitcoin, and they did. And now we're kind of coming into that area where maybe it'll drop down again to below 40 or maybe 30. But again, I think it really comes down to the profits that can be made if you're into that, or if you're into the long-term play, or if you're a combination of both. So again, we'll see how it all works out. And that's actually kind of a good segue. Because George, you just talked about 250K Bitcoin. So I'll ask you this. There was an interview with Anthony Pompliano and Raoul Pal. It's about a week ago or so. And he talked about how Bitcoin, he made it very clear. End of year Bitcoin, 200K. End of year Ethereum, 15K. End of cycle Bitcoin, 400K. And end of cycle Ethereum, 40K. I know you talk about this on your channel. Do you think that is a possibility, or is that just out there?
For the end of the year, I think that's definitely doable. Now, in terms of end of cycle, I'm assuming he's talking about the cycle lengthening and possibly going till March or June of 2022, because some people are saying that the cycle will be extended by 6 months. If that's the case, yeah, sure, it can happen. But and I think we all love to see that happen. But you got to remember that I still think, taking profits on the way up is important, because if it doesn't hit those marks, right, and it does come down and correct, it could be significant. Because if Bitcoin goes to 200K, that's a pretty significant run from here, right? That's more than a 3x run from here. So I anticipate if we do have that 200K by the end of the year, we may see a slight correction, come next year, early next year, but then we will recover from that and continue on, right? But I think those are realistic numbers. You just have to make sure that you don't, you mitigate risk properly, and just by having profit, taking profits and having cash on the side. Yeah.
James, what do you got? You think it's realistic? And do you agree with the taking profits part?
Well, I told people I'd eat whatever they want online live if those targets hit by March 2022, those being the 400K Bitcoin and 40K ETH. I think that would be extraordinary. And if it does happen, we'll all be extremely happy. But I think he caveated that because he got a lot of heat out there in the Twitter sphere and stuff. So he came back yesterday or today, I'm not sure. And he said, well, there's a 70% probability of Bitcoin hitting 200,000 and Ethereum hitting 20,000. So he brought in that 70%. So when you give somebody a 70% stat, that means you got a 30% get out of jail free card. So that's what he came back and said. So that's probably more important. Now, even taking that, so what I like to do is run expected value simulations. So 70% chance of 200K, that's still 140K Bitcoin. 70% chance of Ethereum 20K, that's a 14K Ethereum. So they're still good numbers. They're still crazy bullish. I'm a little more conservative in my price predictions.
Yeah, and see, that's the whole thing. When I hear these numbers, I'm just reminded just exactly how early we are. And in that same interview, when he's talking to Pomp, because they asked him about, where do you see things going in 5 or 10 years? And he says, well, we're at about 2.5 trillion, and it's going to swallow all the different industries that we have, especially into DeFi and tokenization of assets and all the things. He goes, I think once we hit a billion type of users, we're looking at a $200 trillion market cap. So when I'm thinking about these things and I'm thinking about these numbers, I'm like, really, I mean, this is just a very small blip. So I don't understand sometimes where, like, I mean, even I get nervous. I think some people out there watching the video gets a little nervous, but we're so early that even if you make somewhat of a wrong decision in some places, as far as like what you're investing into, it's going to push yourself all the way up, especially if we get a 200 trillion market cap. If you can imagine that, all you got to do is buy and hold. All right. And then for that one, let's move on to the next piece, because this is a thing I get a lot of heat on, which is, it was the same show. Same interviewer, which was Pomp, and he was talking to Plan B. And this was, I don't know if it's a really popular idea anymore as far as the 4-year cycles. And even Plan B came out and said, yes, he goes, I still believe there's 4-year cycles. I believe there's going to be another 70 to 80% crash coming up because of what's based on the halvening. So when I hear somebody talk about that, it seems like that idea got replaced with, no, it's just going to be a lengthening cycle. And it's just like what Willy Woo talks about. We're going to see small rise ups, but we're going to see just a small bearish sentiment. What do you think is going to happen as far as moving out? Will we still have these 4-year cycles, these huge long crypto winters, or is it just, there's just so much adoption, you can't stop it now? And I'll ask George for this one first.
I think we talked about this before. I think it certainly could happen if we have a crazy blow off top event, which I think Plan B is anticipating. Yeah. Right? His stock to flow X model anticipates that Bitcoin will hit like 230 or 240. So that 250,000 mark that we just talked about. And if we do shoot up, 4x from here to the end of the year at 250, I'd say, well, maybe that's likely. Or it could happen, let's say. I take that back. Likely is strong, but it could happen because we ran up so much, right? So much so fast. And if Bitcoin runs up 4x, hey, forget about it. Altcoins will be like 5 to 10x within, a month and a half, right? And that's exactly what we saw in 2017 going to 2018 when Bitcoin first hit, 19.8 and started coming down. Altcoins started going up like tenfold for about a month, and then everything came back down. So it could happen, but I think the new narrative is, well, Bitcoin is not driven by retail right now. It's by institutions. And if institutions have the strongest hands out there, why would they sell, even if it's Bitcoin's at 250,000, right? I think that's the argument. And I don't know, I don't know unless they're anticipating, or maybe they're adding Bitcoin right now to their portfolio because they want their numbers to look good for year end, right? And maybe they anticipate that, yeah, Bitcoin will be weaker in the first quarter of 2022. So they sell at 250K also. I don't know how they think. I'm just speculating here, right? So I think there's definitely a possibility. But if Bitcoin doesn't go up that high, like, we only go up to 100,000. I say only 100,000, but 100,000, 120,000. I don't see it falling 85% because we just didn't have the same blow off top event like before. So
yeah. And then James, I'll get to you in a second. But you know what it reminds me of is I was listening to Anthony Scaramucci, the Mooch. He was talking about Skybridge and how he actually does things. And what was interesting to me was that he says that he goes, I have a lot of high net worth individuals, and my job is to make sure that these guys maintain their wealth, not to make them super duper rich because they're already rich. So my job is just to be a coach, because he says when he got into it, there was a big dip, and he goes, I had to pull people like a football coach with their face mask and go, don't you get out, because this is going to be a great thing. So I think like the things that we do is kind of like that. But when I take a look at institutions and where they're going to go, I don't trust a lot of the institutions out there. I think they're in there, especially like some hedge funds, to make a big, huge profit and then get out as fast as they can because maybe they want to crash the market again and go back in. These are the things that concern me. If everybody sees it like we see it, yes, I agree with George. But I don't know if they see it like we do. James, what do you got?
Yeah, sorry about that. I think my mic wasn't on. Does that sound better?
Yes.
Yeah, sounds good.
I screwed up. So the defaults weren't configured. So sorry about the audio, everybody. So there's two ways of looking at this whole world, and it's real simple. One is we are now in this era of mainstreamification of Bitcoin. Literally, like 240,000 salespeople now going to be selling things like Bitcoin ETFs to Americans. And you got pension funds piling in from Australia and Germany and all over the world. And you have sovereigns adopting. You have now ATMs being rolled out throughout Colombia, just like El Salvador. It's just happening so fast, way beyond my wildest dreams. And that mainstreamification, with such a scarce supply that nobody really understands how scarce it is going to drive the thing very potentially parabolic. Now, the second part of that is, where could it fall back down to? Now, the floor will be a function of how high we go. And the easy way to think about it is, imagine the 200-day moving average on a chart. That is your floor. The more gradual we go up, the higher the floor will rise. If we spike up and spike down fast, it'll fall fast. So that's the easy way to think about it. So right now the floor is coming up on 48K, I think. So I don't see us once we have a little more time in this zone, 60 plus, the 200-day moving average will go above 50, and that will be the new floor. So if we go to 100K, worst case scenario, go back to 50K. If we gradually go out to March 2022 and keep creeping up 10, 15, 20K a month, then that floor will increase to 65K, 70K over time. That will be the new floor. If we go parabolic real fast to 400K, yes, we could have a retracement of 80% back down to 50K. So that's the way people need to think. It's kind of a gradual race. The quicker it happens, the quicker it blows off, the more we fall down. The less and more gradual it is, the better it is for everybody. So
that's a pretty good way to look at it. And I definitely agree with you on that one, which, you know what, speaking of which, this leads me to my next point. If we're talking about gradual increases and then monster increases, let's just take a look at what's going on just with a couple of different cryptos. James, your Solana is looking pretty sharp right now. You've got, it's around 190. I think it topped out at 205 or somewhere around there. And then the market cap's 56 billion.
Hit 215, 216 the other day.
They made a new high recently.
215, 216. Yeah. And I had it around $200 just for this year alone. And I'm glad I am wrong. I underperformed this one. But then the big question is, look at this one, 56 billion. Cardano's at 67 billion. When could Solana flip Cardano, and could it happen? I'll let James take this one first.
Oh, well, these are political hot potatoes, so I got to be careful. let me just, for all the people out there, I'm just going to explain, and I'll always be very honest with everybody, and I don't shill any bags of anything. If I was, I'd be pumping Ethereum all the time, and I don't. So Cardano is great. It's beautifully engineered. It's like a, let's talk cars, a car analogy for George here. So George, one of my favorite cars, I drive a Tesla, but one of my favorite cars is the 1955 SL Mercedes with the gull wing.
Oh, yes.
Which now are like $5 million a pop if you can get your hands on one. This is, for me, Cardano. It's beautiful. It's perfectly engineered. It'll stand the test of time. But the problem is you're not going to be able to get 7 passengers in it. It's not going to be able to take you over a mountain pass in the snow. It's not going to be able to take you to a tropical rainforest. You're going to have to stop at the gas station very frequently, etc. This is the problem. Now, I'm still not sure on exactly where we are with transactions per second for Cardano with the new version. But I've heard anywhere from 0.2 to 6.5 to 600 max. And that's just not going to cut it in this day and age, especially like if you look at the congestion already happening now with the NFT plays on Cardano. That's where I get stuck. And they spec'd this out. And I spent a lot of time in GitHub reading articles. And, the problem is, how can they ease the congestion? How can they increase transaction size? How can they increase the block size? And unfortunately, it's really hard with Plutus. And we'll see. The script execution is apparently taking too long. I don't know where it's going to go. This is why faster chains are creeping ahead. My theory. And I think the chain of our season is Solana. It's leading the market. It's completed its 4th macro wave as a triangle. It implies we've begun the 5th wave, and this could take us to $500. So
Choo. That's big.
It may be 700. I mean, this thing could take off so fast, and we've seen that. We've seen it's now also in this cycle. It's the first to bounce. The whole market can be red, and Solana will be green. So people are beginning to come into it. Everybody is beginning to push it. And that's kind of almost even a mainstreamification of Solana happening now. And institutions are buying it. And then you look at the valuation. You got to look at the whole ecosystem of all things Solana and the money behind it, the backers, the FTX play with their valuation of what, $28 billion or something like this, or even more, or 200. I don't know what the exact numbers are. And if you're watching cricket in India, you'll see FTX written there.
Yeah.
If you're looking at Formula One racing all over the world, you'll see FTX written on a car. Baseball stadiums, basketball stadiums, it's omnipresent. And that's part of the whole ecosystem. You know, Sam Bankman-Fried with, forget the name, the founder. Everybody is kind of in cahoots to make this thing successful. And they've got the connections to Silicon Valley and the big money. So I think it is the play of our cycle. Yeah. What do you guys think?
George, what do you got?
James, you're being too politically correct with Cardano. If you don't like it, just say it's trash.
It's beautiful. Like, I had a beautiful metaphor of what it is.
It's a good metaphor.
Yeah,
you're trying to say bad things about it, but trying to say good things about it first.
Which it was eloquently put. I will tell you that. James takes a lot of heat. I see it on Twitter. I see it on YouTube. I remember somebody said, James is just a dirty shill for Solana. And I wrote back, I go, that's okay. That's why we hang out, because we both shill. I'm going to meet James pretty soon at Shill Bar over at Schiller and Shillington Street. So it doesn't really matter. What are you going to say? So George, what do you got for Cardano and flippening potentially?
I look at Cardano, recently when it was shot up to $3, why did it stop? It seemed like it gained all the momentum and then it stopped, and it hasn't moved since then. What happened was that you had one DEX in their testnet testing out the new smart contract and testing out if they can solve concurrency, and they failed. And since then, we have not seen a DEX operate on the mainnet with smart contracts, right? That's why Cardano has not moved, because people don't know if that could be fixed. Now, I've heard from people that chimed in live chat that Cardano has not done a good job at coming out the code or the STK or whatever that helps these dApp makers actually thrive and make a useful dApp and one that works, right? But so I don't know what's the deal with that. I mean, it seems like Charles went on a month-long vacation to Africa, and he has not really said anything or done streams since then talking about it. I think that's what's holding back Cardano, is because, again, we're left waiting for it to be complete, right? I think we all thought that after smart contracts was out, then maybe they can get all this DEXs and AMMs and NFT marketplaces and other useful things, payments and stuff, that will be running on top, right? While we wait for it to be fully complete with governance and scaling and so forth. But that's not the case. That's why it hasn't moved. And because of that, Solana is catching up. And I do think Solana is going to flip. The biggest reason why I got into Solana earlier this year is based on Sam Bankman-Fried, like what James said, because his presence in the space is huge with Alameda Research and also FTX. I would say it's getting pretty close to CZ and Binance's influence now, right? They keep growing, they keep marketing, and Sam loves Solana. He invests in every single Solana project, basically. If you look at any new project comes out, you look at the webpage, who's a backer, Alameda Research. Like, he literally puts every single, puts money into every single project, and he's going to carry that project far. And all the fundamental stuff, like it being done, it could scale, that's all there. That's like, I think we've all said they're like Ethereum 2.0, even before 2.0 comes out, right? They are literally done. So I think they're going to be, they're poised to just keep going higher. And until Cardano fixes or comes out with some useful dexes, I think people always wonder whether or not it's going to work completely. And I didn't even talk about, I never even thought about the scaling issue that James brought up, right? If even they have it, let's say they have some cool dexes like Sunday Swap and all these other ones, but if they can't scale, that's going to be a problem too, right? So I think that's the biggest problem with Cardano right now. And Solana doesn't have those problems, and they'll probably flip in the near future.
Yeah, and if anybody wants to see, if you look at the Cardano transactions per day, it has fallen from 80,000 or 80 million to 80,000 times 1,000 down to 60,000. So over the last 6 weeks, 4 weeks or whatever, it's actually the number of transactions on the network are falling fast. And I don't know why that is. Maybe because Charles is in Africa. I'm not sure. But maybe if you can pull it up, just Google transactions per second, Cardano transactions per day, you'll see.
Yeah.
And then I just look at data, everybody. Don't hate me. I just look at the numbers, and that tells me what's happening.
Yeah. So with both what you guys said, it makes a lot of sense. But so when I think about Cardano, when I first got into it, like it was all like I bought it at 7 or 8 cents, and I thought it was a pretty good. I thought, well, for the future. But just like George talked about, I mean, that was a meme swap that came out, and they just fell on their face, and they said, well, this concurrency issue is the big thing. And it just kind of went the other way. And I can see that unless a DEX comes out. The thing, though, I will say is on Solana. Have you ever used Solana for for transactions and things like that? Super fast, right? Super cheap. I used it. I used Solana. I bought an NFT on FTX. It was super quick. I used the Phantom wallet. You could actually see your actual NFT in the wallet. And it took less than 5 seconds when I moved things around. Then you can actually transfer things. So on that one, I'm like, I get it. I can see why. And with Sam Bankman-Fried doing all those things, I think he's the one that went in with Solana and said, I'm going to try to break this. And he put all his developers on it, and they couldn't do it. So now we have this situation. But I will say one thing for everybody who's in Cardano right now. It's not that this project is now dead because they're going through a rough patch. I'll remind you, my favorite analogies is Amazon. I remember there was a snippet on Jeff Bezos, and he said that when he was watching his stock fall precipitously in the late 90s or early 2000s, he goes, yeah, it was amazing. Everybody was telling me how awful my company was, and I just saw it just go down and down and down. I looked at my metrics about how many different warehouses we were opening. I took a look at the number of employees. I took a look at the shipping rates, and all of a sudden I'm like, this is the exact opposite. It's going pretty well. With Cardano, I think it's kind of like they're in this little building stage and getting things done, maybe putting in some more agreements between, who knows, heads of states of Africa, who knows? And we'll never know until things go out. But one thing I can tell you, I'm sure of, is that usually when you invest in some projects, usually you make a lot when you invest when nothing's going on and nobody really cares about it. That's it. All right. So for that one, thank you, gentlemen. Let's talk about, and we're going to finish up pretty quick, guys. We're doing pretty good. Hyperinflation concerns. I know this is one of James's big things. This is all everybody's thing, but hyperinflation. When the Fed came out and they said, it's going to be transitory, 2 point whatever. And now they're saying, well, it's about 5%. I know we've got our ideas about what inflation is, but I mean, even across the globe, we can see that inflation rates are up for what we have. So this one is like, Canada, everything. If you go from the right is the previous and to the left side is what was last. Where we are for United States, 5.3 to 5.4. I don't think it's 5.4. I think it's higher. Look at Russia. Look at Brazil. Look at Turkey. Heck, look at all of them, except for Japan, Saudi Arabia. But what are your concerns about hyperinflation? And is this one of those catalysts that brings more people into Bitcoin, or is it just overblown?
Yeah, again, I've proven mathematically that when you increase the money supply by 40%, you debase by 25%. But there's a time lag between the money printing and the debasement. So right now, I reckon we're at least at 15%, and it'll shake through. And then you look at the US economy and you look at Europe, huge deficits, huge debt servicing costs. The money printing has to continue. And these numbers you're showing here, complete garbage. I wouldn't even show them. It's just lie. It's political propaganda is what that is. It's so that the people who rely on pensions and everything else don't have a revolution. Because if you are relying on your pension growing at 1.2% or 3% or whatever, when inflation's 15% and you got to live on that for 20 years, you're going to get really concerned when you find out the real inflation is 15%. But just go into a store. The classic one was apples. I used to buy this box of Fuji apples. It used to be $6.99. Today it's $18.99. So it's nearly 3x in apples in the space of 1 year. And it's funny because I actually have a photograph of the price from a year ago. I was like, this is a great deal on these apples. A year later, I took the same picture, the same place in the same store. Couldn't believe it tripled. So we're all feeling it. We all know the reality. And the money printing has to continue. They say there'll be a tapering. But remember, tapering means just a slowing down. But it'll never stop. It can't physically stop. And if the final point I'd like to make is we can't look at currency based on currency, but everything is already hyperinflating against Bitcoin. Just look at any chart of anything compared to Bitcoin. You see the hyperinflation right there.
Yeah, George, what do you got? What do you think? Same sentiments, or is it even more dire in your thought process?
I look at it two ways. Number one is all these billionaires that are coming in. They're billionaires already, and they're trying to preserve their wealth, right? I don't think, I may be wrong, I don't think they're trying to buy Bitcoin to become trillionaires. Maybe some of them are, but I think they're buying Bitcoin as a store of value that has zero inflation because they realize gold is just not good enough anymore. So they're doing it for that reason. So because they recognize that inflation is going to be like I said recently, a real bitch going forward. So that's number one. And number two is, yeah, I think if you look at like 5, 10%, maybe even 25%, like James, or 15%, like James said, on smaller items, you don't notice it that much. Maybe James noticed on apples. I mean, I haven't really noticed on apples, but you notice it. The bigger the item is, the more you notice it, right? You're talking about, if you're buying a computer, right? You're buying a car, you're buying real estate, you're buying anything that's an asset. They have all gone up 25, 30, 40, 50%. And some of that inflation could be because people are trying to buy things because they realize the dollar is debasing or devaluing. So it's actually like artificial inflation because people are just rushing to spend their money as much as possible because they know they're going to lose money buying power, right? Yeah. But the bigger the item is, you realize it's just getting more and more expensive, and it's to a point where it's ridiculous. And you could argue some of it is due to manufacturing issues and shipping issues, but a lot of it is just, it's just because there's a lot of people that are spending money because they realize that it's getting more worthless. Yeah. And one of the things they're buying is Bitcoin and crypto, which is why it's going up tremendously.
True. You know what I worry about? And so when James here was talking about apples, you should take a look at the prices in Puerto Rico. Everything has to be imported. There's huge taxes on top of the fact of the inflation. What I worry about is that not for us and not for you watching this video. What I worry about is the people that don't get into assets and they just sit on their cash. James has got a friend who's sitting on like 600K and he thinks it's going to save him. And I think as time goes on, if people who don't invest into assets and everything gets inflated away, like, what do I do? What do I have here? Because my actual wealth is not the wealth in this linen, these cash bills. I should have gotten into assets, and I can't even imagine as time goes on how bad it's going to be. But that's just my 2 cents. All right, and then we'll finish up with exit strategies. So I know we're coming into it, and I think a lot of us I think all 3 of us on our channels talked about this ad nauseum about this is the last quarter of the 4-year cycle. If you're going to be anywhere, be here right now. So as far as your exit strategies, has anything changed over the last month or so as far as like you getting out of crypto? Are you selling, or are you getting into something else like, I don't know, whatever you're thinking about? James, let me ask you the question first. Anything has changed for your strategy?
No, it's always been the same. So I set my price targets when things hit, I exit. And the things that'll hit first typically will be the riskier assets, maybe because I got lower price targets on those.
Yeah.
But I still believe if I look at kind of where I am right now, and I get this question all the time: what should I buy? What should I buy? What should I buy? The people who are late to the party, people who want to FOMO in. Right now, I'm looking at 6 assets that I believe are the strongest ones at this stage of the cycle with the least amount of risk and the most upside. Number 1 is Bitcoin. Number 2 is Ethereum. Number 3 is Solana. 4, Polkadot. 5, Polygon. And number 6, Chainlink. These are kind of the blue chips, the pristine, the safety ones. You still have all this crazy stuff happening out there. You've got manipulation happening with some meme names, not only in the stock market side, but also now on the crypto side too. So all I say is, everybody, this is the stage of the game. If you and you guys know, you've been around, when you start reducing your riskier assets and you move into the safer plays, you start swinging, taking the risky stuff and putting it over the safe stuff. And that's the way to play this game. In terms of exiting, I don't plan on exiting Bitcoin. I plan on hedging it. The stuff I have, I got a low cost basis. Same with Ethereum. The tax ramifications to me would be just too painful to sell them, so I hedge them instead. Solana, the jury's out. If Solana continues to do what I think it could do, that's another keeper. The rest I could probably sell when they hit the targets. But at the end of the cycle, I'll be holding 3, and I might layer out of some of the Ethereum to buy more of something else that could be running faster. Or who knows, maybe Tesla falls to $600. Then I'll sell my Ethereum and buy Tesla. You never know. I just move the stuff around where I believe the most return is. And I don't discriminate against anything, any asset. But I like things to be low risk, high return.
Yeah, but just to clarify, you get out of a position as far as an asset, but you get into another asset.
Yeah. So right now I'm harvesting cash because I blew all my money on the last dip when Bitcoin hit 40,000, when Solana went to about 150 or 136, I can't remember. Yeah. And so I loaded up on Matic, Solana, Bitcoin, MicroStrategy. And so I went from a 22% cash position down to almost 0. So now I'm trying to build up more cash just in case there is an opportunity or there's a Gray Swan event. So I'm a little bit nervous now not having that cash position.
Solid. George, what do you got? Same thing, or you got a little bit more?
No, I think, I think for me, and I think a lot of people, the worst part about holding through crypto winter was not having the ability to buy on the way down or buy the dips or buy the bottom. And the reason being, most people, including myself back in the day, put all of our money in, and we didn't have any additional money on the side to be able to buy, right? So this time around, I'm changing it. I'm making sure that I have cash on the side because I don't mind holding. It's like James said, I don't mind holding the winners. And I'm thinking that they could fall anywhere from 50, 60, 70, 80%. I don't mind holding because I believe they will come back up, but I mind not being able to dollar cost average when they are dirt cheap, right? So that's why I make sure that I have cash on the side, about 25% in cash. Right, like that example, like I think you said, or James's friend that has $600,000 in cash, right? The argument with that is, if he has a $3 million portfolio, then it's okay to have $600,000 in cash because that could be used to buy the dips if they come, right? But if he has $600,000 in cash and nothing in his portfolio, then that's a different story, right? So I think you have to have appropriate cash on the side, and you know what? That's my strategy, is making sure I have that. So as crypto goes up and I look at that percentage, I'm like, okay, my cash, portion is falling. We'll take some profits on the way up, set a schedule, and just make sure I have that 25% cash in case things come down, because I think it's very hard to predict when top is going to come.
Yeah. And also, there's one thing that does concern me, especially for people who are all planning to sell at like 100,000 or whatever, if Bitcoin hits that, is what happens if it does go to 200,000, 300,000? What happens if Raoul Paul is correct and it goes to 400,000 and it doesn't come back as much? You've missed out. You've missed the opportunity to hold the most pristine asset. And that's why I think if somebody has a whole coin, just keep that. Lock it away, come back in 5 years. If you got to achieve that status, don't think about selling and buying back in cheaper to double your bag. The risk, there's a 20%, 30% risk that it could just go parabolic from here on in. If the adoption continues at this rate, that is going to happen because there's simply no supply. So be careful, everybody, if you're thinking about, thinking you can sell it. I'm going to sell it 100,000. I'm going to buy 2 at 50,000. That may not happen. So just everybody keep that in the back of your heads too. And I want to say one thing as well about Cardano before we finish. I know there's a lot of, and I just want to say this because I hold Cardano, and Cardano is typically a laggard. It always hangs behind. But this is a $3.50. It's a $4 crypto, and it's going to pop. I know it's going to pop. When all the other stuff is run, everybody's going to look around and say, what's left? What's still cheap? Oh, Cardano. And the money will flow in, and it's going to go straight up. So just, be careful. I don't necessarily recommend at this very low price at $2.10. Maybe don't sell at this price. Hold on, wait for $3, $4, and then take some out. But it's just too cheap right now to sell. I'm interested what you guys think about that.
Yeah. And then, before I go on, I will say this. This is all investment opinion, not investment advice.
Exactly,
just from three friends, just shooting around. But what James just said is true. And then here's another example. Remember XRP? Nothing was going on with XRP in 2017. Everybody's like, this piece of junk is not going to do anything. And all of a sudden it pumped, I think, one of the last ones, and it pumped one of the hardest. And before you know it, it was like top 5, at least top 7 in 2017, 2018.
Oh,
so
it flipped Bitcoin at one point in time. That's how big it was.
So, I mean, if we take a look at that, yes. And again, the things that investors look at are the ones that aren't doing anything, not the projects that are totally dead. Like no one's going to go buy BitConnect right now, but like something that is like just doing nothing and very boring. Boring is sexy because I'll just share this with you. This is a great quote. Fortunes are made by buying low and selling too soon. So again, right now there are some deals to be had, and yes, you are never going to hit the top. I will just tell you that. So, but I mean, it doesn't really matter because I mean, even if you hit 60, 70, 80%, you're still going to be in the money. So I agree with what James says, but just remember that they're going to pump at some point, and that's just how I see it.
Okay. James, can I send you a poster of Charles Hoskinson? Can you hang it behind you?
I love the man, and first of all, regarding Charles, he's a philanthropist, which I respect very much.
True.
Second of all, he is funny as hell. He's got a great sense of humor, and he's just a real nice guy. There's not, as I said, it's a perfectly engineered platform. They just have to fix some stuff. So we'll see. I have utmost faith that they can do it. The market is so big. There's a place for everybody. They need to carve out the niche. Maybe their niche is the continent of Africa. Just to do whatever down there, to help everybody get unbanked. I don't know what his mission is, but there is a place for everybody. The market is huge. So
yeah, there's a place for everybody. And if you're making great gains, then good for you. Nobody really wants you to buy just to one project. Those are the days of like 2013, 2014. Those are gone. It's all about what's best for you and your family, because our goals, my goal isn't James's goal, and James' goal isn't George's goal, and all of our goals are probably not your goals. That's just how I see it.
And there's one last piece of advice as well for the audience out there too. If you look at the S&P 500 over the last decade, 80 to 90% of all the gains happened with 9 companies. So that means 491 companies performed averagely or flat or down. But you got to remember, you got to identify who those top 10 out of 500 companies are and get positions in those winners, because all the money always gravitates towards the winning projects. Mm-hmm. Think Google, think Square, think Amazon, think Tesla, yada, yada. Think of the top cryptos. That's what's going to happen in this market too.
Yeah. And then the last thing I'll say before we get to George is that even if you pick a couple of even if you pick 7 out of 10 losers, let's be honest, you just got to hit the 3 big guys and whatever those are. And you could more than make up for your losses. So if you're out there and you're thinking, well, should I get this and that? Do your own research, take a look at the team, what they're doing, if it has real world case utility, what kind of partnerships are they doing, and then just kind of make a decision from there. And that's it. George, what do you got?
No, that's interesting statistic from James. I mean, I hear about stuff like that. Basically like if you look at winning years with the S&P or with the NASDAQ, whatever, it's like if you miss out on, I'd say like the 10 best performing days or 15% or 15 of the best performing days, then you would be like down, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of like the same concept. You have to make sure, first of all, you're in the game. And second, to James' point, holding on the players that are making all the money, right? And without those two things, you're just going to be, not making much. But if you do, then you're going to be making a lot of money.
Yeah, exactly. And then I'll say this, like for me, I dollar cost average in, I'll dollar cost average out. And this is my spreadsheet. You can find that in the links. There's some that I'm going to be changing, but it's the same thing. And just like what George said, I am not in the business of sitting on the sidelines like I did in 2018, watching Ethereum go to $100, Bitcoin go to $3,000, and everything else just tumble and me not have any money because I just let it sit too long. I have to do these things. And then let's finish up, and then we'll get a little Q&A, and we'll try to go faster. Which cryptos are you guys still dollar cost averaging? I will tell you right now, I am not dollar cost averaging any, and I'll explain why after your answers. But George, are you dollar cost averaging, and which ones and why?
Honestly, I have been just holding what I have and building out my cash position. So I haven't really bought anything within the last few weeks.
Yeah. James?
Yeah, I buy things like Chainlink in the low 20s. Polygon has run already, but if it does get low, I buy that too. Solana right now, I always leave limit orders in case there's a big wick down on certain names, including Bitcoin, Solana, and Ethereum. So if the price is right, I'm still buying those, but I'm trying to also build up more of a cash position, and I'm doing a lot of things like selling options against some of my equity positions to raise cash to just have that opportunity if something bad does go down. And remember, everybody, this is a very volatile market, which is beautiful because it gives us opportunities to get things at good prices, like whale manipulations. Like look what Bitcoin did just even a few minutes over the last hour or so. We went down to 59.5. Now we're at 60,400. It's a $900 swing in minutes, everybody. If you, as I say, just be ready with your sniper rifle. And of course, you're not going to kill anything, but you can snag some Bitcoin and other names at really good prices. These things are manipulations. The price is going up. And these manipulations are conducted by whales so they can wreck people and grab their Bitcoin cheap. But this is where we play the opposite game. So everybody remember that out there.
Makes sense. Yeah. So again, we're all different. James is more advanced trader, options, that's a big thing. Me and George kind of dollar cost average. And me, outside of these two gentlemen, I am not dollar cost averaging in because right now I'm trying to fund a investment deal for real estate. And it's a hefty 7-figure number. And right now, if I put it into crypto, then I have to just wait. But if I do that, then things fall. It doesn't really work out for me. So right now I'm peeling off profits here and there. There's another big chunk I'm going to do, but what I will be doing instead of selling my Bitcoin, like I, did a while ago, years ago, I will be taking out loans, but hedging the Bitcoin with Celsius. So I did the same thing for another property, worked out great. It took me like an hour to get the money that I needed. And same thing again. So I'll be doing those types of things. But for me, again, what's your goal? Because my goal is this multi-unit property right now. And then later on, I'll wait for the big crash and go that way. But that's what we have. All right. So hope that helped everybody. Let's get to some little Q&As. We're coming up on the big hour, which we'll try to get out of here because these guys got a family. I got to get things going. There was a good question. Let's see. George sold altcoins for Bitcoin. That aged well. Yeah, who knows? It'll probably do well. George didn't sell all his altcoins. I guarantee that.
There's always trolls, of course, that misconstrue what people say, including what I did. So just
yeah, believe me, I still get the comment like Rob's a moron because he sold all his XRP, and I will tell you the 30th time I sold it all. Because it was a great play for taxes, because there's this thing called wash trading, which is illegal in stocks and equities, but in crypto, it's not. I bought it right back. So I'm still holding on, but it was a great day for me as far as like what my CPA said actually helped me out a ton. Let me see. Here we go. Here. Will you guys, let me see if I can get this in. Will you guys sing happy birthday to Beardy? No. But happy birthday, Beardy. We're happy that you're here.
Beardy Day Crypto. Happy birthday, buddy.
Happy birthday.
He's a very funny guy.
Yeah. Let's see, where are we? I'm trying to find all the super chats, but there's so much to go through. And then I want to say thanks to Mullet for being the enforcer out there and making sure that nothing too crazy got through. We appreciate him for doing these things. And where are we? There was a question. No, that's it. I know I lost. I know I missed them, but I know there was a couple questions. First of all, hyperinflation and real estate. Will that be a big effect? James, let me see what you got for that one. Hyperinflation in real estate, or will we come back down?
Yeah, so in this market, you want to own things that if you drop them on your foot, you go, ow. And including Bitcoin. So imagine Bitcoin being heavy. One of these things like falling on your toe. But yeah, so basically as inflation happens, there's a little delta between the actual true inflation rate and the appreciation of real estate. But if you have real estate in high demand cities, like think Austin, Texas, Boise, Idaho, parts of Nevada, etc. People are moving to Florida too, all the tax-free states. You will see huge appreciation because there simply aren't enough houses. So hyperinflation, yes, will impact the real estate market. And a lot of people are calling for a real estate crash. I don't see it because there's not enough supply and there's too much money. And everybody's pumping all their cash into hard assets, real estate, crypto, etc., etc.
Yeah. And then people will say, well, Rob, why are you getting into real estate right now? Because the prices are all-time high. Look, right now it still doesn't matter, especially if you're doing short-term rentals, because the money's still going to flow in as people come into these areas that I've specifically picked. So even though that they are a little bit higher, I don't really care so much. I care about the reoccurring revenue that it gives me, also for the tax benefits as well. So there's that. And then
there was another question that came in to me regarding, do I still own Chili's? Yes, I do. I own Chili's about 20 cents or 25 cents. I can't remember. I plan to sell it at 50, 60, 70 cents. And that'll be one of the ones that I offload. Same with HBAR, Zilliqa, those types of names.
And here's a question. I can't pull it up for some reason, but it says, what do you guys think the price is going to be for Bitcoin on Monday?
63. I think typically, we're going back to the old ways where it bounces on Sunday nights. I think 62, 63 is very possible. Again, we just gone up $940 in minutes. So it's $1,000. So yeah, that's what I say.
I mean, I think this week is futures and options expirations. I mean, options is almost like every day now, but usually the last Friday, I know futures is a big thing, options. So we could see some volatility. But hey, let's see if Plan B is 3 for 3. He says 63 for end of October, right? So I think that's a likely number we end up at. Well, who knows? We could be higher or we could be a little bit lower starting Monday, and then we crawl back by Friday, right? So we'll see.
We'll see. And then this is the last one. The other ones, I can't really pull this one up, but it's just about eGold. Michael Condura says, James, how do you plan on hedging Bitcoin when he said he won't sell because of tax ramifications?
So there's a whole bunch of ways to do it. One of them is using options. That's one of the reasons I'm experimenting now with Beto. I bought some call options. I want to see how they perform. And then I'll probably put together some collars or some spreads to protect my downside within the range where I think it's going to fall. So imagine we go to 200K. I believe we could go down to 110K or 100K from there. So that's a very big collar you want to hedge. And I'll pump a video out on how to do this as well when we get closer to time. I don't want people to get too nervous, but it's important. In order to hedge, though, you need cash and you need options authority in your accounts. Mm-hmm. So if you are planning to do that and you're not experienced in options, don't do it because you will get toasted. It takes a lot of time to really learn how to use it, but I will show you how I do it. Not financial advice. Yeah. But there's a whole bunch of tools out there, like Ledger X, which was acquired by FTX, is being rolled in, hopefully before year end as well. That's another way to do it too.
Gotcha. And then last one, and then we'll wrap this up. Says, love all three. This is from Jimmy Dean, my favorite sausage provider. Love all three of you guys. Thank you for what you do. I bought Sol at 185 today. If it's going to 600 or 700, why wouldn't you just grab lots of this before it dumps? George, what do you think? Would you still buy this right now? Or are you, like we talked about?
Well, it's like any crypto. Even if someone asked me, should I buy Bitcoin at 60,000, right? I believe everything's going to go much higher, right? But that doesn't mean there won't be corrections. And I don't look at TA as much as James, so I DCA in. So I would say yes, because I believe Solana is going to go much higher. But, you know, it might be at local top. It may come down. But the best way to do it is just ease into it. Sprout your buys. Don't go all in at once, and DCA over a long haul. And that way you can't lose, especially with a good project like Solana, in my opinion.
Gotcha. James, last one.
Yeah, at about 70% of all of the money I've invested since September 1st has been into Solana, maybe 80%. And I've been just buying the dips on that thing all day long. Right now, where it is now, considering my cost basis, is a little bit too high, but I'd probably buy at 171 if it did wick down there. But I don't see it. I think it's going north of 200 and then straight up to 300. It's looking very strong. And people, you got to look at the consensus out there. Everybody's beginning to wake up to it. I think there was a guy, Meet Kevin, somebody shared a video. He did a video on Solana yesterday. So that's why I talk about the mainstreamification of Solana. People that don't even know what it is talking about it. It's kind of interesting. So,
gotcha. Well, great. Well, everybody, I want to say thanks, guys, for showing up for the DCA. It's always fun, always good. And I will say this: I'm glad we do this show because it's good to see different opinions and how we all do different things. And I know that some people, I might not be your cup of tea, George and James, whatever else, but there's always good information passed around. So thanks, guys. I appreciate it. All right. And that's it for today. Any last words of wisdom, gentlemen, for the week?
No, just buckle in. It's going to be fun. And I remain as bullish as ever.
Yeah.
Gotcha. All right. Sounds good. All right. Thanks everybody. Appreciate it. Thumbs up and the subscribe.
Thanks, George and Rob.
All right.
Okay. See you guys.
Adios.
Are you turned off?